Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Happy holidays, and here's to a better 2021. This video is actually about getting DJI Pocket 2 photos to look like this. Now, what makes a photo professional is actually the framing, the story, the exposure, the thought that goes into it, and the talent of the photographer. But often, smaller cameras or smaller sensors can't replicate that depth of field that the bigger professional cameras can. And that's why in phone cameras, you get the portrait mode, which aims to replicate that depth of field using software to some degree of success. The DJI Pocket 2 doesn't have this, but I've managed to find a workaround using the Focos app, which can turn your photos from this into this. So let's get into the settings you'll need on your Pocket. So if we scroll down from the top and go to the end, we want the Pro mode turned on. This will enable us to shoot in RAW, so I'm going to turn that on and hit the Pro button in the top left and make sure that format is selected to RAW. This gives us a bit more information. You can still use JPEGs for this, and often it's quicker because you can transfer it straight to your phone, but I prefer to use RAW because I can mess around with the colors a bit more and have a bit more detail. In terms of aspect ratio, I tend to stick to 4:3 for this sort of thing, but 16:9 is also good, so you can choose between these. It won't make a difference to the final product. Finally, have that zoom feature easily accessible. Generally, the blurred background effect looks more natural in close-up or zoomed-in shots, and you don't lose too much quality zooming in with the Pocket 2 in good light. It's important when taking these photos to be really mindful of your subject, your framing, and your background. We want a clear separation between the foreground and the background for this to work, so make sure you've got that, and also again use that zoom feature to try and get a little bit closer and make that lens look a little bit more telephoto. So once you've taken your photos, you have two options. If you've shot in JPEG or just want to edit the JPEG, then by all means connect your phone straight to the Pocket 2 and transfer those JPEGs over to your phone and skip this next step. But if you want to edit the RAWs, obviously transfer them to your computer or an app that has a RAW editing software and then start edit them. So I'm using Lightroom here and I'm just going to make some basic edits to some of the photos I took. Let's have a look. So I kind of like one of these. Let's go with this one. So, I can move the shadows, the highlights, have a bit more control of the information just because I've shot in RAW. I'm going to make it a little bit more vibrant, probably warmer because it was sunset. And let's go with this one as well, just because it's quite an extreme one with a dark foreground. You can actually raise those shadows right up, and it does introduce some noise, of course it does. You can apply a little bit of noise reduction to get rid of that. But let's be honest, most of the photos being taken on the Pocket 2 are probably for social media anyway, so you're not going to notice this noise too much. So I think that's probably about tasteful. Let's increase the saturation a little on that, and the warmth, just to get that real sunset feel. I'm going to bring the highlights down a little. Yeah, that's nice. So all you want to do is just tune your photos into how you want them to look in the final product, as this is the last time you're really going to be able to edit that raw information before you transfer it back to your phone and apply the focus effect. Now once you're done editing your raw photos on the computer, transfer them back to your phone, and again, if you've not taken them in RAW and you've taken them in JPEG, then you can transfer them straight to your phone and ignore the last step with me editing them. Obviously there's lots of phone apps that you can edit with. They're not going to edit as well as the RAWs, but for social media they should be completely fine. So what you're going to do is download this app called Focos, and if we open that now, you'll see that it will start with just the portrait photos I've taken on my phone, but if you go to all photos, you'll see at the top here, these are the photos that I've just edited. So let's pick the first one, and I'm going to pick this one as an example. Now you see instantly, as soon as I click it, it calculates the depth of field, predicts where you want it to focus, and instantly we've got a nice blurred background effect. Now there are some problems here. As you can see just behind her head here, there's a little bit of a car there and it's still in focus. So what we can do to get around that is we can scroll to the end here and click the paintbrush, and this patches it up. So basically what we want to do is select the focus point that the car should be at using this handy tool here, and you see the focus point is kind of moving and that's what we're selecting. So if we select an area that's in line with the car, and we can zoom in, and what we can do is actually just paint that focus effect in. And if we go too far with it, we can always paint some of her back in, and we'll reduce the size of the paintbrush there. And you can be as exact about this as you want, but for the purposes of this, I'm gonna press OK. And now you see that the car is actually blurred out, and it looks a lot more natural. Now, I'm thinking I don't want it to be this blurred. It looks a little bit unnatural, a little bit fake, like the portrait modes. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to aperture, size, and just change the aperture. So that's probably near enough for the original there, and that is what a lot of people would go for. But you know, I think the most tasteful option is down at F12 maybe somewhere. Maybe you could stretch to F11, and it creates some really nice background blur. So let's go through some of the options here. If we go to focus, you can actually change where it's focusing on. So if I wanted it just to focus on the background on the cruise ship and have her out of focus, I could do that. Obviously, what I want is to have our subject in focus. If we move over to shape, we can change the shape of the blur. Now, obviously, this is a free version of the app. You can pay for extra features, and these are some of the extra features. I don't really think most of these features are needed, but if you want to get deep into it, you can pay for the full version and change these features. We can also go over to the highlights and change that, but that's only available in the Pro mode. And we can go over to Vivid, which actually just obviously increases the vibrance a little bit. You can change that. Then we can go to Transform at the end. And this just transforms if you had any bokeh in the background or the style of the blur. Obviously, I just like to keep it as it is. And the rest of the features here are locked in the free version. Then if we go over to the next tab, we have lens. And again, this will change the bokeh. At the moment, we only have normal and this, I'm not going to try and pronounce that, Lights Elmar bokeh. So if you have bokeh balls in the background, you can change the look of them by changing your lens. But again, this is only available in the paid version. So if we go back to normal, move that onto the next tab and look at lighting. This is quite interesting now because we get a 3D view of how it's interpreted our focus. And you can see if I scroll around that actually it's cut our subject out pretty well. And you can see how the focus sort of goes back in this 3D plane, which is extremely clever considering there's no depth information in this shot whatsoever. It's all shot on the Pocket 2 and it's automatically detected the sort of 3D elements, I guess. So if we click on sunlight, we can add some brightness or take some away. I'm not really sure what the difference is here between sunlight and brightness, but it's there if you need it. And if you go to new light, we can add various different lights. So let's add a flashlight randomly. You can move it around in 3D space like this, and obviously it will light up wherever object you put it in front of. At this point, it's lighting up our subject's face, and you can brighten that or darken it, which is interesting if you wanted to. So maybe if you wanted to, let's get rid of that light, delete. Add a softbox to light somebody after the fact. You could do that in the paid version, which I think is quite cool. I haven't tried it because I mainly just use this app for blurring photos, like Pocket 2 photos. This is definitely more the professional features. But if you wanted to pay for the final version, you could get these features. Let's go over to Effect, and again, what you can see here is the 3D render, and you can see what is detected as the foreground here. And actually, if you wanted to change how much of it is blurred, you could just move this back bokeh so we've got a road here that's blurred in the photo. So if I move that all the way back, to just the cruise ship here and tick that, then you'll see that the road is all in focus still and the cruise ship's just going out of focus in the background there. That's quite a nice effect as well, because that changes the way it looks, makes it look a bit more natural, and gets a bit more of the background in if that's something that you wanted. And again, from there we can change the aperture and it would just change how blurred that part is. I'm going to actually move that back a little bit. So that's how I want it to look right now, as a sort of portrait-y photo. This photo on the Pocket 2 is actually taken with the zoom, and I'm not sure exactly what, but it's about 1.5 to 2 times zoom. And that's basically how it's going to look. So then we just have to export it, save copy, and I put up on the screen the before and after, just show you what it looked like before and what Focus has actually done. Now just a couple more things to show you, and that's what happens if you don't use the zoom. So this is a shot without the zoom, and as you can see, the wide angle just makes the blur look a little bit more unnatural, even if we sort of move it to these standards, this f15, it still looks a little bit strange. If we go to the tab on the left here, we can crop this in a little. I don't want to crop it in too much, it'll be exactly like the last photo, but and actually that's not too bad. But this is what happens if you don't use the zoom. It obviously doesn't look like a portrait-y style of photo, but in this instance it has cut out the background pretty much perfectly. So you could actually just get away with that, and that's it. That's all you need to do, all the changes you need to do. So that's that example. I'm going to save that copy because I quite like that. Bear in mind these photos are taken with the Pocket 2, and there's no portrait mode in the Pocket 2 and no depth information. Let's go to our extreme photo then, which is this one. And I actually really like this. I'm going to turn my brightness up because I can't see anything. I actually really like this, how it's done it. But again, it's looking a bit unnatural, so I'm going to move that to maybe a bit more, maybe F9. Okay, I'm settling around here somewhere. So somewhere between F9 and F12. And if I zoom in then, just to see how well it's cut out, it seems pretty much perfect. It's like, I don't see any areas that I need to change around the subject. That's all looking good to me. If we wanted, I guess we could crop it a little. You can also flip it, change the ratio. Well, like that, maybe we could have a photo looking like that. That looks pretty good to me. And just for effect, let's show you the 3D effect and how it's cut out, because I like this little view, it's pretty cool. So yeah, it's literally taken a couple of seconds to get a photo looking like this. I'm going to show you the before and after again. You can do as much work to it or as little work to it as possible. Everything's done as soon as you import the photo, which is really nice. And that's how you can use the Focus app to make your DJI Pocket 2 photos look a little bit more professional, or add that portrait mode, or make them look like they're taken from a bit more of a bigger camera with a bigger sensor. Obviously, I would probably rather get my phone out and use the portrait mode on that than go for all of this, but I know there's a lot of people out there who want the DJI Pocket 2 to be a good all-round solution, and I think this is a good workaround for that. It also allows you finer control over that depth of field and that 3D effect, which I think actually yields more professional results than just doing it with a phone portrait mode. That's it from me. Thank you for watching. If you like this video or it's helped you at all, then do leave a thumbs up. If you've got any comments or questions, then put them in the comment section down below. And if you want to see more videos like this on sort of cameras and travel gear, then do hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.